In this video, I'm going to talk you through Keychron's V-Series keyboards. More specifically, I'm going to show you the Keychron V3, which I'll build and mod today. I'll show you the out-of-the-box performance with a nice set of switches and keycaps, but with no mods. Then I'll show you my go-to mods that I use on all my V-Series keyboards because they make a huge difference to the typing sound and feel. Before we get into that, I just had a quick question for you, which is, would you be interested in buying any of my modded keyboards? I had a comment in a video a few videos ago just asking if any of my keyboards were for sale. And obviously it makes sense for me to sell some of my keyboards because I can't just keep accumulating a collection. So just let me know in the comments below if you'd be interested in buying any of the keyboards that I build and mod on my channel. So this is the Keychron V3. If you've seen my channel and my other videos, you'll know that this is the fourth Keychron V-Series keyboard I've bought, and I have the fifth on the shelf waiting to be built. The V-Series keyboards are Keychron's entry-level custom keyboards with an ABS plastic case and tray mount design, as opposed to the Q-Series, which have an aluminium case and a gasket mount design. Keychron are currently rolling out the V-Series in the same layouts available in the Q-Series. The value for money with these keyboards is absolutely exceptional. The barebone option is $64, the barebone knob version is $74, the fully assembled version is $84, and the fully assembled version with a knob is $94. The V-Series keyboards are all made from the same high quality materials and with the same basic specifications. They have an ABS plastic case with two sets of feet for height adjustment, a nice steel plate with paint that doesn't scratch when pulling switches, a hot swappable self-facing RGB PCB, a silicone case dampening pad, a foam pad for between the plate and the PCB, and screw-in stabilizers. It is worth noting though that these keyboards are wired only keyboards without any kind of wireless capability. For those of you new to the hobby, screw-in stabilizers are stabilizers that screw directly into the PCB. These are generally considered better than plate mount stabilizers because when they're screwed fast to the PCB as they are, it prevents any kind of movement of the housing, which in itself can create rattle, which is something that you see quite often with plate mount stabilizers. So yeah, like I said, they're generally considered better, and they were almost unheard of at this price point in entry-level keyboards until the Keychron V-Series started to be released. Also, for those of you new to the hobby, a south-facing PCB or south-facing switches basically means that the switches are pushed into the hot swap sockets, which is with the LED slot in the switch facing down. North-facing switches are completely upside down, obviously, with the LED strip towards the top, and what happens with north-facing switches is that when you use cherry profile keycaps on certain rows, the keycap will bottom out on the top housing of the switch before it will bottom out properly inside the switch as it's supposed to. So again, south-facing PCBs are generally just looked at as being better because they don't restrict your choice of keycaps. These keyboards are really good fully assembled. If you buy one fully assembled, you won't be disappointed, but there will be some improvements to be made with some mods. But where these keyboards really shine is when you buy them as a barebone keyboard and you build it out and mod it yourself. They are specifically made to be taken apart and modded, and Keychron have executed on this really well. Beginners can have real confidence in taking these apart because there's no clips holding the case together. Everything's designed to be taken apart, so everything's screwed together, so it's just undoing screws and lifting stuff apart, which is great. The V3 is the TKL or 10 keyless or the 80% version. And if you look at the most readily available layouts, the most commonly used layouts, the smallest you'll see that people generally use is 60%. Anything smaller than that becomes kind of not practical. And then at the big end of the spectrum is obviously full size. Most people in the custom and mechanical keyboard hobby don't use full size keyboards because when you put the center of the spacebar directly underneath your face, if you like, so as you're typing on the center of the keyboard, what it does is it pushes the number pad out to the right of you, which in turn pushes your mouse out further to the right of you, if you like. So these smaller layouts are generally more popular in the hobby, and 10 keyless is a great layout because basically it slices that number pad off, which brings your mouse in much closer to you. And it's a great layout for those people dropping down from full size because you lose that number pad bringing your mouse in closer to you, but everything to the left of that you keep. So you've got the arrow keys, you've got the cluster of 6 keys above that for page up, page down, delete, and then you've got all of the normal size keyboard to the left of that with the function row, so you don't lose any functionality other than the number pad. So again, a great layout, and a great layout if you're just dropping down from full size. In the box you get everything you need in terms of taking apart, building and using the keyboard. You get the keyboard, a keycap puller, a switch puller, a screwdriver, an Allen key and some spare screws in case you lose any. So first we're just going to build the keyboard as it comes out of the box. I've pre-lubed some Novelkeys creams and I have a set of Keychron dark black double shot ABS keycaps in OSA profile. These are the same profile as those which come with the pre-assembled versions, but I much prefer the dark black colourway on these. Building is as simple as inserting the switches, making sure the pins are straight as you go, and installing the keycaps. This is how the keyboard sounds with those nice lubed Novelkeys creams which I've lubed myself, and the Keychron OSA keycaps. So it sounds pretty good, keeping in mind that these are high-end switches that I've already lubed. The stabilisers are factory lubed, but I'm sure the V1 and V4, which were the first V-Series keyboards that I bought, had better out-of-the-box performance. There's definitely some rattle on the enter key, but they're still pretty good. So next up, I'm going to strip down the keyboard and do my go-to mod for the V-Series keyboards. Obviously we need to get back to where we started, so we'll take the keycaps off and the switches out. From here we can get into disassembly. Flip the keyboard over and unscrew the 8 brass cap head screws with the Allen key provided, then flip it back over, lift off the top case, or frame as it's also known. Next, unscrew the plate screws using a small Phillips head screwdriver, then lift out the plate and PCB assembly from the bottom case. Next you need to unscrew the screws holding the plate and the PCB together with a Phillips head screwdriver. Once those are out, you can separate the plate, the PCB and the foam pad. From here you just unscrew and drop out the stabilisers. And that's the keyboard stripped down to its component parts. The first of the two mods that we'll do is to sort out the stabilisers with the Holy mod. The Holy mod is when you place a thin piece of tape in the stabiliser stem, which both reduces the tolerance between the wire and the stem and creates a soft surface which the wire contacts, both of which getting rid of any rattle. I use proper stickers for this which are already cut to size, but you can just cut your own tape. The most important thing is to clean the stems thoroughly when they're pre-lubed like this, so as the stickers stick to them, and the quickest and most effective way that I've found to do this is using compressed air. Holding the can upside down jets the stems with freezing fluid, hardening and removing the lube right down to the surface of the stem. Then you flip it over and hold the can the right way up to blast off the remaining fluid. On top of the Holy mod, I give the stabilisers a good lube job, which includes lubing the stems and housings with Krytox 205 grade 0, then I lube the wires by dipping them in dielectric grease. With the stabs ready, but before installing them, we'll move on to the second and last mod, which is the PE foam mod. The PE foam mod is when you place a thin sheet of PE foam on the top of the PCB so as it sits between the switches and the PCB. People do this mod when trying to achieve a creamier sound profile, but it also just works very well in dampening out the clunky and kind of cheaper typing sound and feel that you get with even the best entry-level plastic keyboards and the cheaper keycaps. One point to note is not to forget to cut and install the PE foam before you install the stabilisers. With that done, let's reassemble and check out the difference in typing sound. So I hope you could clearly hear the improvement over those two typing tests. For not much work you see really big results, but it is worth noting that lubing the switches is a job in itself. It takes sort of 2 or 3 hours for this size of keyboard if you do a decent job of it, so that's got to be added onto the time it takes you to disassemble, mod and reassemble this keyboard basically. My advice to reduce lubing time is to just lube the stems. I don't lube the housings anymore. I find that lubing the stems with a kind of a slightly heavier coating of lube does the same kind of job and saves you a heap of time by comparison to lubing both the stem and the housing every time. And with just those 3 mods, the switch lube, the PE foam mod and the holy mod, you see a huge improvement in the keyboard. And if that's not completely clear in the typing test, I can only ask you to take my word for that, because the keyboard feels and sounds heaps better after just those 3 mods. So to sum up, in my opinion, and it is just an opinion, there is very little on the market that's better at this price point than the Keychron V-Series. There's no wireless capability and ergo no battery, but this doesn't put me off the keyboard at all. The build quality, the south-facing RGB PCB, the screw-in stabilizers and the absolutely fantastic price on this keyboard more than offset no wireless capability in my opinion. There is a growing selection of layouts on the V-Series keyboards now, and the 10 keyless is an excellent option if you're just stepping down from full size. I hope you found this useful, and I'll catch you in the next one.